Good morning vlog. It is Saturday, March 16th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Or maybe that's tomorrow. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to be wearing green today and tomorrow. I mean, well, this is black, but my bracelet's green. Does that count? I don't know. Anyway, just wanted to give a quick morning update. I am just having a nice quiet morning this morning. Woke up around 7 o'clock, a little bit later than I normally do, but I can't sleep that late. My body's just now accustomed to it, I guess. But I wanted to finish working on editing one of the episodes of the podcast, and I've already mastered that and about to just put in the scheduling to have it post on this coming Wednesday, and then I'll work on editing the next episode. I'm really liking this new workflow that I've set up in the morning. It's pretty chill, not too much going on. I can just sit in front of my computer and listen to the podcast while I'm editing it, and it gets me into a nice relaxed kind of zone, almost kind of like a meditation in a way, but not exactly. I mean, like I'm listening, but also at the same time it's keeping the technical aspect of my brain engaged, where I can just edit to my heart's content pretty much. And I'm liking spreading it out over multiple days each morning, because I used to stress about it, editing the podcast Tuesday evening at the latest, and then sending it out for review Wednesday morning, and then hopefully getting it approved by Wednesday afternoon. That's too stressful. That's why I'm going to this multi-episode cache of this cache of bank of episodes that we schedule throughout the future weeks, so I don't have to stress as much in editing it. I can just spread it out over time and then send it to Pastor Adi when I finish it for his review. So I'll be sending the latest episode off for his review today, and then hopefully I'll be able to send him the next episode, which would be scheduled 2 weeks out for review, hopefully by like Monday or Tuesday. So I'm really liking this new setup that I have going on, and it really helps me get going in the morning. And one more thing that I wanted to add on to about the podcast, I learned about this last night. I'm glad that I stumbled upon it. I was just exploring in the DAW, the digital audio workstation that I use. It's called Reaper. It comes with a bunch of they're called audio plugins. So like a compressor, an equalizer, sound effects, all these different tools that you can use and tweak. You can change different settings to just change the audio sound of whatever you have recorded, whether it's an instrument or a voice. And I was listening to the audio of the class that we have recorded, and it's very, when you listen to it, you can hear a lot of low frequencies, a lot of rumbling and things like that, like from the air conditioning being kicked on and whatnot, people shuffling around, just general room noise. And that, I think the technical term for that is called muddy. So if you don't know what mud sounds like, it's not that it sounds like mud, but it sounds dirty in a way. So I was just looking around, seeing how I might be able to clean up the audio a bit, and looking through the built-in plugins that come with Reaper out of the box, and they're free. You can download, if you have a different digital audio workstation that you use, you can go to the Reaper website and download these plugins for free and you can plug them in. That's why they're called plugins. You can plug them into your digital audio workstation and use it from there. There was one that was just called the name of the company is called Kuko's Mud equalizer or whatever, and I'm like, mud, let's try that. And so I just dragged it into it's called my effects chain, and when I was doing some A/B testing with it, with the filter enabled or the effects enabled and the effect disabled, it was like night and day difference. Sure, it's still not the perfect solution because, I mean, it's probably just because of the audio source that I have. The microphones are really far away from whomever is speaking, but it does like absolutely cut out all that background noise that I was concerned about. And you can hear the person asking the question so much clearer. And that was my goal. So I'm very happy that I challenged myself to say, like, okay, how can I make this sound even better? Because I found a solution. And so I'm going to be implementing this going forward for all future recordings. And that's kind of the point, is to improve over time and to learn. But for now, I'm going to finish all that up. I'm going to queue it up on our WordPress site for publication. I'm going to queue it up on our Simplecast platform for publication. And I'm going to send it off to Pastor Audie for review today. And then I'm also going to start working on the next episode until I feel like doing something else. I mean, I'm like, in the mornings, I'm a little meh already. But for some reason, just editing this audio is really helpful for me to get my day started. A little bit of a time jump to later this morning, and yes, I decided to go with green. I changed that out just to be safe, in case this green wasn't enough. But anyway, I finished up with the mastering of that one podcast, sent that off to Pastor Audie for his review, and then I was quickly going through some of my Instagram stories, and I came across Pat Flynn, whom I am following, obviously. He's a podcaster himself, and his angle is just to provide some value for other people, other aspiring podcasters, other podcasters, and how they can improve upon their podcast performance. So going through his Instagram stories, he had a link to a 30-minute video where he had pretty much kind of a recorded webinar, some quick tips and tricks on what somebody can do to increase visibility of their podcast, how they can improve their podcast, kind of take their podcasting to the next level from a pure marketing and automation perspective. And he showed some interesting tools that I didn't know about. It actually has sparked me to definitely get Messiah's Upper Room podcast and any other future podcasts that I make onto Spotify. I've found out how to go through that process now, so I will be going through that process to get Messiah's Upper Room podcast onto Spotify, and hopefully that'll help increase visibility. But also there was another section from the tips that he outlined to do for your current podcast, and one was which to just do a quick podcast like iTunes, a quick podcast iTunes audit in a way. And so that's always a good practice to get into, whether you're doing your own podcast, whether you're hosting your own website, maintaining your own website, or having somebody else maintain your website. I mean, is to just do a quick audit and look at the results that you are showing to other people from the public's perspective. So great use case is I went to Messiah's Upper Room podcast page on iTunes, and I found there was an issue with it. I had been neglecting putting in the show description in a specific section on Simplecast that has been showing up blank on iTunes. So I'll go ahead and show that real quick, and I'll turn this video around real quick. So here it is on iTunes. This is what it looks like. Everything looking good so far. Have the artwork here. Our name. It's by Pastor Jim Audie. We have our show description here. I could probably make that a lot longer. You can have like a pretty big thing of text space. Here are all our episodes here. I'm starting to take out the episode number and just having the name, but I'll put the episode number in the description. But speaking of which, if we go over here to the description side, the past few weeks have been just blank. And whereas you can see here, there are descriptions everywhere else. Now, that is an oversight on my part. That is my failure. Because, and I'll throw this up on my throwing this up here on my screen here. Now, this is on Simplecast. I have the old version right now, and I have the next episode scheduled already, and that'll be publishing on Wednesday. But if we go into our latest episode, what I had here, there were two different sections whenever I'm uploading stuff. There's the full description and show notes, which I had filled out, and then there is the episode summary, which I left blank. I didn't want to put in a summary. And that is where my error was. I did not know for Simplecast and how it interfaces with iTunes, it apparently takes the description from that episode summary section and not from the actual full description section like it would imply. So it's counterintuitive, unfortunately, but that's just part of the learning process. So long story short, I'm glad that I found that error. I actually corrected it. I put the description in both sections now so that it will show up in iTunes. It should show up in iTunes. Probably would take about 24 hours for those changes to fully propagate as it updates the feed. But I'm going to come back and check. And that's a very valuable lesson, that periodically go and check to see how your show is doing if you're doing your own podcast, which if you have subjects to say, like subjects that you're knowledgeable about and want to share with other people, you definitely should have your own podcast. And the website that I followed to help inspire me to go do this and to make this video is from Pat Flynn, and I'll link it down in the YouTube notes down below when I upload this to YouTube. But for right now, I mean, here's where I had it: smartpassiveincome.com/beyond beginner podcasting video, and it's just a short, about 30-minute video or so, almost 30 minutes on this whole thing, and it's more of a kind of a the ask that he has at the end of it is for another webinar that he's hosting, but that's also for free. So I'm glad I came across this. It definitely provided value for me. So Pat, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. And thank you for continuing to inspire me to help make my podcast and all future podcasts better and better. And now just sitting here going through some of my Instagram feed again and having podcasts on my mind, I see a bunch of my fraternity brothers involved in vastly different projects and they're leading interesting lives of their own. And I was looking online and it doesn't look like our national fraternity at all has a podcast of its own. And so that got me to thinking, well, what if I just start up a podcast of interviewing the personal fraternity brothers that I grew up with and interacted with almost on a daily basis at least on a weekly basis back in college, and just ask what has happened with their lives and see and where they've gone from there. And that is a whole slew of content. I know realtors, game developers, sound designers, engineers of all sorts. I mean, the possibilities are quite endless. And I was just inspired. I needed to get that in some other form, definitely like a video form, just so future Phil, remember to do that, because that sounds like a wonderful podcast series that would be relatively easy to make, and not only easy to make but exciting. And I know that whenever you get excited, you act like this, like we're doing right now. So there you go, future Phil, enjoy.